The Forgotten Legend. The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly before the galactic survey vessel Luminous Seeker as it approached the small, unremarkable planet designated HD 9472c, locally known as Terravoid. Commander Vexlar stood on the bridge, his four eyes scanning the readings with mild disinterest. His scaled skin shimmered in the dim blue light of the command center as he clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "Another dead world," he muttered. "Survey Team Alpha, prepare for planetfall." The planet below was mostly barren, rocky terrain with sparse vegetation, abandoned for millennia according to preliminary scans. The Galactic Council had marked it for potential colonization, requiring only a standard survey before construction vessels would arrive. Survey Officer Merrill approached the commander, her translucent appendages fluttering nervously. "Commander, the scanners are picking up artificial structures. Ruins, perhaps." Vexlar's upper eyes narrowed while his lower ones focused on the data. "Interesting. Previous inhabitants?" "Unknown, sir. The architecture doesn't match any known species in our database. Perhaps another extinct race," Vexlar said dismissively. "The galaxy is littered with the remains of failed civilizations." Chief Scientist Trill joined them, her crystalline exoskeleton catching the light. Unlike the others, she vibrated with excitement. "Commander, I believe these structures may be of human origin." The bridge fell silent. One of the junior officers chuckled. "Humans?" Vexlar said, his voice thick with derision. "Surely you jest, Scientist Trill. Humans are myths, stories to frighten hatchlings. Legends often contain fragments of truth, Commander," Trill replied firmly. "The Galactic Archives have records. Incomplete, yes, but they existed." Security Officer Kraz, a hulking mass of armored plates and sharp protrusions, joined the conversation. "Humans are fairy tales, weak bipeds who supposedly fought with the strength of Morton warriors and the cunning of Vaspid queens. Impossible. If they were so mighty," added Navigation Officer Plex, "why are they not among us now? Why did they vanish without a trace?" Trill's crystalline body flushed with color. "That's precisely what makes them fascinating. Their disappearance coincided with the Great Void War, 3,000 cycles ago. Some theorize they sacrificed themselves to end it." "Enough," Vexlar interrupted. "Scientist Trill, you may indulge your curiosity about these myths during the survey, but I expect a factual report, not fanciful speculation about extinct primitives." "Yes, Commander," Trill responded, though her colors continued to pulse with excitement. The survey team, Trill, Kraz, Merrill, and 2 junior scientists, descended to the planet's surface in a shuttlecraft. As they broke through the atmosphere, the ruins came into clearer view. Massive structures, partially reclaimed by the planet, stretching across a vast plain. "Fascinating," Trill whispered as they landed. "Look at the design. Reinforced duralloy frames, blast-resistant architecture. This wasn't a civilian settlement." Kraz scoffed as he checked his weapon. "Every species builds fortifications." They disembarked, the group spreading out to examine the ruins. The air was thin but breathable, the gravity slightly stronger than standard. Wind whistled through the broken structures, carrying dust and the echoes of abandonment. Merrill activated her scanner. "These ruins are approximately 2,800 cycles old, consistent with the end of the Great Void War." Trill approached what appeared to be an entrance, partly collapsed but still accessible. Ancient script was engraved above the doorway. "Look! These markings, they're similar to samples in the Galactic Archives attributed to humans." "Coincidence," Kraz muttered, but he approached for a closer look nonetheless. Trill used her portable translator, its light scanning the markings. After a moment, it displayed United Earth Defense 4C, Outpost Azigama. "Earth," Trill said reverently. "The human homeworld." "If humans ever existed," Kraz said, "they were just another failed species. Nothing special." They ventured deeper into the structure, illuminating their path with bioluminescent orbs. The interior was remarkably intact. Corridors lined with metal, rooms filled with decayed equipment, and walls covered with more of the strange script. This was a military installation, Merrill observed, examining what appeared to be weapon mounts. In what seemed to be a central command room, they found rows of ancient consoles and shattered view screens. Trill approached one console that appeared less damaged than the others. Incredible. It's still maintaining minimal power after all these cycles, she said, her appendages quivering with excitement. Some form of self-sustaining energy source. Can you access any data? Merrill asked. Trill connected her portable interface. The system architecture is unlike anything I've seen, but I might be able to. Yes, I'm bypassing the security protocols. The ancient console flickered to life, displays illuminating with alien script scrolling rapidly. Suddenly, a holographic projection appeared above the console, a three-dimensional star map of the galaxy. What is this? Vexlar's voice came through their communicators. He had been monitoring their progress from the ship. It appears to be a strategic map, Commander, Trill replied. Look, these markers indicate military positions. The map showed countless points of light across the galaxy, concentrated in several key sectors. Many were marked with symbols that matched the script above the entrance. There are thousands of them, Merrill whispered. We're thousands, Kraz corrected. If these were human outposts, they're all gone now. Trill continued manipulating the interface. I'm accessing what appears to be a log entry. The hologram shifted, replaced by the image of a bipedal creature. It stood upright on two legs, with two arms, a single head, and no visible exoskeleton or protective plates. It appeared fragile, covered only in some form of artificial skin-type protection. Is that? Merrill began. A human. Trill confirmed, her voice hushed with awe. The creature, the human, began to speak. The translator struggled momentarily before producing comprehensible audio. Final log, Major Sarah Chen, Commanding Officer, Outpost Sigma. The void has breached our outer defenses. Earth has fallen silent. We're implementing Protocol Omega. All personnel have been evacuated to the ARC ships. This outpost will self-destruct in 30 minutes to prevent technology capture. If anyone finds this record, remember us. Humanity will return when the void is defeated. We are not the end. We are the beginning. The hologram dissolved, leaving the aliens staring at empty space. The void, Merrill whispered. They were fighting the void. The Void War was the darkest period in galactic history, a time when an inexplicable force had threatened to consume the known universe. Ancient records spoke of entire star systems going dark, of a creeping nothingness that devoured all in its path. The war had ended suddenly and mysteriously, the void retreating to the galactic rim where it remained contained to this day. Impossible, Kraz declared. No single species could have faced the void and survived. Trill's colors pulsed with intensity, yet the evidence suggests they did exactly that. Look, there's more data here. She accessed another file. This time, the hologram showed battle footage, massive ships engaging with what appeared to be pure darkness. The human vessels were firing weapons of incredible power, tearing holes in the very fabric of space. Those energy readings, Merrill gasped. They're beyond anything in our current arsenal. Commander Vexlar's voice cut through their awe. This changes nothing. Whatever these creatures were, they're gone now. Complete your survey and return to the ship. As the team continued exploring, they found more evidence, personal quarters with strange artifacts, training facilities designed for the human form, and weapon caches long since emptied. In one room, preserved behind sealed doors, they discovered what appeared to be a museum or memorial. Inside were displays containing what must have been personal items, small trinkets, images of humans in various environments, and a large wall covered in thousands of names. A monument to their dead, Trill observed solemnly. At the center of the room stood a sealed case containing a simple object, a small metallic disc with a strange symbol etched on its surface. "What is it?" Merrill asked as Trill carefully examined the case. "I'm not sure," Trill admitted, "but it seems significant." Against Kraz's warnings, Trill opened the case. The moment she did, the disc began to glow with a soft blue light. A holographic message appeared above it, simple words in the human language that their translators converted easily. "We YL As if triggered by their intrusion, the facility's ancient systems suddenly hummed to life. Lights flickered on throughout the structure, and a deep resonating tone began to echo through the corridors. "What's happening?" Kraz demanded, weapon raised. A computerized voice spoke in the human language, translated in real time by their devices. "Presence detected. Initiating protocol sentinel. Transmitting location beacon." "Beacon," Merrill repeated, alarmed. "To whom?" Trill stared at the glowing disk, understanding dawning in her crystalline features. "I believe we may have just announced our presence to whoever was meant to find this outpost." "Impossible," Kraz scoffed. "After nearly 3,000 cycles, nothing waits that long." Vexillar's voice cut through their comms. "Return to the shuttle immediately. Our long-range sensors are detecting an energy signature approaching the system." "From where, Commander?" Trill asked. There was a pause before Vexillar responded, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. "From the edge of the void." As the team rushed back through the facility toward their shuttle, the ancient lights continued to activate, systems powering up one by one. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with renewed energy, as if the long-dormant outpost had been merely sleeping, waiting for this moment. In the command center, the holographic display changed once more, showing a countdown sequence. Beside it, the image of the human, Major Sarah Chen, appeared again, her expression resolved. "Arc ship protocols activated. If you are human, welcome home. If not." The message cut off, leaving the final words unspoken, but the threat implicit. The survey team reached their shuttle as the ground beneath them began to tremble. Behind them, the human outpost was fully awake now, lights blazing against the darkening sky. As they ascended toward the luminous seeker, Trill looked back at the structure below. For a moment, she thought she saw movement among the ruins, shadows that moved with purpose rather than the random patterns of dust and wind. "Commander," she said quietly as they docked with the main ship, "I believe the human legends are not myths after all." Vexillar didn't respond immediately. When he did, his voice had lost its earlier derision. "Plot a course back to Galactic Center," he ordered. "Maximum speed." On the view screen, a small object appeared at the edge of their sensor range, approaching from the direction of the galactic rim. It moved faster than any known ship, leaving a trail of distorted space in its wake. "What is that?" Merrill whispered. Vexillar's four eyes fixed on the approaching object, mandibles clicking rapidly in the xanthy expression of profound fear. "I believe," he said slowly, "we are about to find out if the legends of humanity are true." The disc that Trill had inadvertently activated pulsed in her containment bag, its glow intensifying as the unknown object drew nearer. The simple message it projected seemed to hang in the air before them all. "We YL and it seemed that humanity had kept its promise. The first contact. The luminous seeker tore through hyperspace, its engine straining beyond safety parameters. On the bridge, Commander Vexillar stood rigid, all four eyes fixed on the rear scanners. The unknown object had appeared from the edge of the void, responded to the beacon from the human outpost, and was now pursuing them with relentless determination. "Status report," Vexillar demanded, mandibles clicking nervously. Navigation Officer Plex's tentacles worked frantically across the console. "The object is still gaining, Commander. Current velocity exceeds our maximum by 37%. At this rate, intercept will occur in approximately 8 hours. "Impossible," muttered Engineering Chief Drez. "No known propulsion system can maintain such speeds without tearing itself apart." Vexillar turned to Trill, who was analyzing the data from the outpost. "Scientist Trill, I need answers. What exactly did we activate down there?" Trill's crystalline form pulsed with anxious colors. "From what I've deciphered, it appears to be a hibernation protocol. The facility was designed to remain dormant until contacted by returning humans or—" She hesitated. "Or what?" Vexlar pressed. "Or until disturbed by non-human entities, in which case it would alert the nearest sentinel. And that's what's pursuing us. A human sentinel." "I believe so, Commander." Security Officer Kraz, who had returned from the planet with the survey team, approached. "Commander, I recommend battle stations. If this pursuer catches us, we should be prepared. Against a technology that can outrun our fastest ship." Vexlar clicked his mandibles. "We need more options." "There is another possibility," Merrill suggested quietly. "We could attempt communication." A heavy silence fell across the bridge. "Communicate with a potential human vessel?" Kraz scoffed. If the stories are true, they were the most aggressive species in the galaxy. "The stories also say they were highly adaptive," Trill countered, "and intelligent. They might listen to reason." Vexlar considered this. "Prepare a transmission in all known formats. Use the data from the outpost to approximate their language if possible, but also prepare all defensive systems. I will not be caught unprepared." As the crew scrambled to carry out his orders, Vexlar turned to gaze at the small metallic disc that Trill had recovered from the outpost. It continued to pulse with that eerie blue light, the holographic message, "We will return," still hovering above it. "They have returned," he murmured to himself. 6 hours later, the situation had deteriorated further. The pursuing object had continued to gain ground despite the luminous seeker's best efforts to outrun it. More alarming, the ship's systems had begun experiencing unexplained malfunctions, navigation errors, power fluctuations, and intermittent failures in the communication array. "It's as if something is infiltrating our systems," Drez reported, his segmented body twisting in agitation. "But our firewalls detect no intrusions." Kraz glared at the disk, which now sat in a containment field on the bridge. "That device, it must be responsible." "I've analyzed it thoroughly," Trill objected. "It contains no transmission technology. It's a simple memory storage unit with holographic capabilities." "Then explain these malfunctions," Kraz demanded. Before Trill could respond, the ship's lights flickered and died, plunging the bridge into darkness. Emergency illumination activated moments later, casting an eerie red glow across the alarmed faces of the crew. "Main power has failed," Drez announced unnecessarily. "Switching to auxiliary systems. Status of the pursuing vessel?" Vexlar asked. Plex checked her readings. It's gone, Commander. Gone." "Explain." "It's no longer registering on our sensors. Last position was approximately 30,000 units behind us." Vexlar's upper eyes narrowed in suspicion. "Scan all surrounding space. It must be somewhere." The crew worked frantically, but the mysterious pursuer had vanished completely. An uneasy silence settled over the bridge, broken only by the soft hum of auxiliary systems and the occasional beep of monitoring equipment. "Perhaps it was never there," Merrill suggested hesitantly. "A sensor malfunction." "No," Trill said firmly. "The readings were consistent across multiple systems. It was real." "Then where is it now?" Kraz demanded. As if in answer, a soft, rhythmic tapping sound echoed through the bridge. All eyes turned toward its source, the outer hull, where something appeared to be striking the ship's exterior. "That's impossible," Drez whispered. "Nothing can touch our hull in hyperspace." The force wooled. The tapping grew louder, more insistent. It moved across the ceiling, down one wall, then stopped directly behind the command chair where Vexlar stood frozen. "Security teams to the bridge," Kraz ordered into his communicator, drawing his weapon. The tapping resumed, now forming a distinct pattern. "It's a communication attempt," Trill realized, quickly scanning the pattern. "Binary code. primitive but effective. It's repeating the same sequence. What does it say? Vexlar asked, his voice unnaturally calm. Trill's colors fluctuated as she translated. It says, "Return what you have taken." All eyes moved to the metallic disk in its containment field. "Commander," Merrill said urgently, "I think we should comply." Before Vexlar could respond, the ship lurched violently, throwing everyone off balance. The hyperspace view on the main screen distorted, stars stretching and twisting impossibly. "We're being pulled out of hyperspace," Plex shouted, her tentacles working frantically across her controls. "Some external force is disrupting our drive field." With a final shudder, the luminous seeker reverted to normal space. The view screen adjusted, showing only empty space, no planets, no stars, only distant pinpricks of light. "Where are we?" Vexlar demanded. Plex checked her instruments, tentacles trembling. "Unknown, Commander. No recognizable star patterns. We're lost." "Impossible," Dres said. "The navigation system contains maps of the entire explored galaxy." "We may no longer be in the explored galaxy," Trill said quietly. A new sound drew their attention, a hissing noise coming from the main airlock. The security monitors showed the inner door beginning to cycle open, though no one had authorized access. "Security breach at the main airlock," Kraz shouted, already moving toward the bridge exit. "All security teams converge. Seal all compartments," Vexlar ordered. "Initiate intruder protocols." The bridge doors sealed automatically as warning klaxons blared throughout the ship. On the security monitors, they watched as Kraz and his team took up defensive positions outside the airlock. The inner door completed its cycle and slowly began to open. What emerged was not what any of them expected. A single figure stepped through the airlock, bipedal, approximately 2 meters tall, encased in sleek armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its face was concealed behind a featureless helmet with no visible breathing apparatus or sensory devices. It moved with fluid grace that belied its size, stopping just beyond the airlock to survey the security team arrayed against it. Kraz aimed his weapon directly at the intruder. "Do not move. You are boarded illegally and will be detained." The figure tilted its head slightly, as if curious. Then it raised a hand in what might have been a placating gesture. From the bridge, Vexlar watched in horror as Kraz fired his weapon, a direct hit to the intruder's chest. The energy beam should have incapacitated any living being. Instead, it seemed to disappear into the dark armor, without effect. The intruder remained motionless for a moment, hands still raised. Then it lowered its arms slowly. "Negotiation rejected," came a voice. Flat, synthetic, yet unmistakably translated into perfect galactic standard. "Initiating retrieval protocol." What happened next occurred so quickly that the bridge crew could barely follow it. The intruder moved with impossible speed, a blur of motion that the camera struggled to track. One moment Kraz and his team were firing desperately. The next they lay scattered across the corridor, not dead, but unconscious or immobilized. The intruder stepped over their prone forms and proceeded deeper into the ship, moving with purpose. "It's heading toward the bridge," Merrill realized, her voice trembling. "Seal all bulkheads," Vexlar ordered. "Deploy all security measures." On the monitors, they watched as emergency barriers slammed down throughout the ship. The intruder paused at the first one, examining it briefly. Then it placed a hand against the metal surface. The barrier, composed of titanium alloy capable of withstanding direct energy weapon hits, began to glow red, then white, then simply dissolved. "That's not possible," Dres whispered. The intruder continued its inexorable progress toward the bridge, overcoming each barrier with the same disturbing ease. It never hurried, never seemed concerned, just moved with the same steady purpose. "Commander," Trill said urgently, "I suggest we give it what it wants, the disk, and allow an unknown entity to reclaim potentially dangerous technology." Vexlar retorted, My duty to the Galactic Council may get us all killed, Merrill interrupted, uncharacteristically bold. Commander, with respect, nothing in our experience can explain what we're witnessing. This technology is beyond us. The intruder had reached the final corridor leading to the bridge. Only two bulkheads and the bridge door itself remained between it and the command crew. Vexlar's mandibles clicked rapidly as he considered his options. Finally, he nodded. Very well. Prepare to. The bridge doors exploded inward with such force that fragments embedded themselves in the far wall. Through the smoke stepped the intruder, its dark armor unmarked, its movements unhurried. The bridge crew backed away, leaving Vexlar alone before his command chair, facing the towering figure. You have taken something that does not belong to you, the synthetic voice stated. Return it now. Vexlar drew himself up to his full height, though he still barely reached the intruder's chest. I am Commander Vexlar of the Galactic survey vessel Luminous Seeker. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration. We found an abandoned outpost and recovered an artifact of historical significance. We meant no trespass. The helmeted head tilted slightly. The outpost was not abandoned. It was waiting. Waiting? For what? For us. The intruder stepped forward, extending a hand. The beacon. Now. Trill approached cautiously, carrying the containment field with the disk inside. Here, we meant no harm. We are scientists, explorers. The intruder considered her for a moment, then reached through the containment field, another impossibility, and took the disk. The moment it touched the dark armor, the disk's blue glow intensified, and symbols began to appear across the intruder's helmet. Data received, the synthetic voice stated, updating status. Then it addressed them again, but the voice had changed, still synthetic, but with undertones that suggested actual emotion. You have awakened something that has slept for a very long time. The consequences of this action cannot be predicted. Who are you? Trill asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. The intruder was silent for a moment, as if considering how much to reveal. Finally, it reached up and touched its helmet. The featureless surface retracted, folding away like liquid metal to reveal a face, a human face, pale, hairless, with eyes that glowed with the same blue light as the disk. Not entirely human, perhaps, but recognizably derived from the beings they had seen in the outpost records. I am Guardian, it said, its mouth moving in sync with the words. Last sentinel of Outpost Sigma. You have activated the return protocol. Return of what? Vexlar asked. Guardian looked at him, those glowing blue eyes seeming to peer into his very essence. Humanity. The word hung in the air, heavy with implication. But humans are extinct, Merrill said. They vanished 3,000 cycles ago. Incorrect, Guardian replied. Humanity did not vanish. Humanity ascended, transformed, evolved beyond physical limitations. The Ark ships mentioned in the outpost records, Trill realized. They weren't evacuation vessels. They were metamorphosis chambers. Guardian nodded once. The war against the void could not be won through conventional means. Humanity chose to change itself to fight an enemy that existed partially outside normal space-time. And did they win? Vexlar asked. The void was contained, not destroyed. It cannot be destroyed, only balanced. Humanity became the counterweight, existing in the spaces between reality, watching, waiting. For what? Drez asked. For the void to stir again. Guardian turned its glowing gaze to each of them in turn, which it has begun to do. Your intrusion into the outpost was simultaneously fortunate and catastrophic. Fortunate because it has alerted us to the void's renewed activity. Catastrophic because you have drawn its attention directly to yourselves. As if to emphasize this point, the ship's sensors suddenly blared with warnings. On the view screen, the empty space around them began to change. Darkness deeper than the vacuum of space itself seemed to boil into existence, spreading like ink in water. The void, Guardian confirmed, turning to look at the screen. It has followed you from the outpost. It has tasted consciousness after long hunger. What do we do? Vexlar asked, all pretense of command authority abandoned in the face of this incomprehensible threat. Guardian replaced its helmet, the face disappearing behind the featureless surface. You have two choices: flee and be consumed, or stand with me and fight. Fight. Kraz had appeared at the broken doorway, battered but conscious. Fight that. With what weapons? With these. Guardian held up the disc, which now pulsed with blinding intensity. The keys to humanity's arsenal, hidden throughout the galaxy for just this moment. It turned to Vexlar. Commander, your ship's specifications suggest it can reach the nearest cache in 14 standard hours. I can modify your engines to improve that time. And if we refuse? Vexlar asked, though he already knew the answer. Guardian gestured toward the view screen, where the darkness continued to spread. Then our conversation is academic. The void consumes all it touches. It has already sensed your minds. It hungers for consciousness, for thought, for fear. It will follow wherever you flee. Vexlar looked at his crew, scientists and explorers, not warriors. Then he looked at the spreading darkness that defied all natural laws, and finally at the strange being that claimed to be humanity's sentinel. Very well, he said finally. We will cooperate. But understand this, my primary responsibility is to my crew and to the Galactic Council. I need assurances that your arsenal will not threaten our civilization. Guardian's helmet revealed nothing, but its voice carried a note of what might have been grim amusement. Commander, if we fail, there will be no civilization to threaten. With that, Guardian turned and strode from the bridge, heading toward engineering. After a moment's hesitation, Dres followed, clearly torn between fear of the stranger and professional curiosity about the promised modifications. Vexlar sank into his command chair, feeling the weight of his decision. He had been sent to survey an uninhabited planet. Now he was allying with a being from legend against a cosmic horror, racing toward weapons of unimaginable power. Commander, Trill said quietly, approaching his chair. I believe we're witnessing the return of humanity to the galactic stage. The implications are staggering, if we survive to report them, Vexlar replied grimly. On the view screen, the darkness continued to spread, reaching tendrils toward the ship like a hungry predator sensing prey. And somewhere in the depths of the vessel, a being that was once human was preparing for war against an enemy that had waited patiently for 3,000 years. The legend of humanity was no longer myth. It had become their only hope for survival. The hunter becomes the hunted. The luminous seeker hurtled through space at velocities its designers had never intended. In engineering, Guardian worked tirelessly, manipulating the ship's systems with an expertise that left engineering chief Dres alternating between professional awe and existential dread. The power flow is now 320% of maximum rated capacity, Dres reported, his segmented body twisting anxiously. By all established principles, our engines should have melted by now. Guardian didn't look up from the modified control console. Your understanding of energy transmission is limited by conventional physics. I've simply introduced a phase variance that allows the heat to exist partially outside normal spacetime. That's... Dres struggled for words. That's impossible. For you, yes. Guardian's synthetic voice remained emotionless. For humanity, it was the first step toward ascension. On the bridge, Commander Vexlar watched the pursuing darkness on the long-range scanners. It continued to spread, flowing through space in defiance of natural law, always following their trajectory. Beside him, Trill and Merrill analyzed the data they had managed to salvage from the outpost before their hasty departure. The hunter becomes the hunted. The luminous seeker hurtled through space at velocities its designers had never intended. In engineering, Guardian worked tirelessly, manipulating the ship's systems with an expertise that left engineering chief Dres alternating between professional awe and existential dread. The power flow is now 320% of maximum rated capacity, Dres reported, his segmented body twisting anxiously. By all established principles, our engines should have melted by now. Guardian didn't look up from the modified control console. Your understanding of energy transmission is limited by conventional physics. I've simply introduced a phase variance that allows the heat to exist partially outside normal spacetime. That's... Dres struggled for words. That's impossible. For you, yes. Guardian's synthetic voice remained emotionless. For humanity, it was the first step toward ascension. On the bridge, Commander Vexlar watched the pursuing darkness on the long-range scanners. It continued to spread, flowing through space in defiance of natural law, always following their trajectory. Beside him, Trill and Merrill analyzed the data they had managed to salvage from the outpost before their hasty departure. According to these records, Trill said the void first appeared approximately 3,200 cycles ago, near what was then the outer rim of human space. Initially dismissed as an astronomical anomaly, it soon revealed its true nature when it consumed an entire colony world. Consumed? Vexlar asked. What exactly does that mean? Merrill displayed an image sequence recovered from the outpost archives. It showed a blue-green planet similar to the human homeworld. As they watched, darkness crept across its surface like spreading ink. Where it passed, nothing remained. Not ruins, not wasteland. Simply absence. The void doesn't destroy, Trill explained, her crystalline body pulsing with solemn colors. It erases. Matter, energy, information, all converted to something our instruments cannot detect or measure. What could possibly counter such a force? Vexlar wondered. Humanity found a way, came Guardian's voice from behind them. The Sentinel had entered the bridge silently, moving with that same unsettling fluid grace, though the cost was beyond calculation. What cost? Kraz demanded, still nursing wounds from their earlier confrontation. Guardian stood motionless for a moment, the featureless helmet revealing nothing of the thoughts behind it. Humanity. Before anyone could press for clarification, the ship's sensors chimed with an alert. We're approaching a stellar nursery, Plex reported from navigation. Unusual energy signatures ahead. The cache, Guardian confirmed. We must hurry. The void gains ground. On the view screen, the stellar nursery came into view. A vast cloud of gas and dust illuminated by the light of newborn stars, beautiful and chaotic. Guardian directed them toward a specific region where the gases swirled in complex patterns. There, the Sentinel indicated, within the gravitation eddy of the seventh protostar. There's nothing there, Kraz objected. Your sensors are inadequate. Guardian moved to a console and interfaced directly with the ship's systems. The view screen image shifted, revealing what had been invisible before. A massive structure hidden within the gas clouds, its surface reflecting the light of nascent stars. What is that? Vexlar breathed. Arsenal Catch Delta, Guardian replied. One of 12 established throughout the galaxy before humanity's transformation. Inside are weapons designed to combat the void. Weapons? Kraz's interest was piqued. What kind of weapons? The kind your species should never possess. Guardian's tone left no room for debate. I will retrieve what we need. Your ship should maintain position at a safe distance, and leave you alone with these superweapons. Kraz scoffed. I think not. Guardian turned to face the security officer. Your distrust is understandable but irrelevant. The cache will not recognize your biosignature. Attempting to enter without proper authorization would trigger defense systems that would eradicate this vessel and everything within a light-year radius. A tense silence followed this pronouncement. I'll go with you, Trill volunteered suddenly. As a scientific observer, you said the cache responds to proper authorization. Can that include me if you vouch for my presence? Guardian considered this. Possible. Your crystalline physiology is not entirely dissimilar from certain silicon-based allies humanity once had. The recognition protocols might be adapted. Commander. Trill looked to Vexillar for permission. Vexillar clicked his mandibles and thought, "Very well. But maintain constant communication. At the first sign of danger, you return immediately." Guardian nodded once. "Prepare a shuttle. And hurry. The void approaches." The shuttle bay doors opened to the swirling chaos of the stellar nursery. Trill and Guardian boarded a small craft designed for short-range exploration. As they launched, Trill couldn't help but marvel at the beauty surrounding them. Clouds of cosmic dust illuminated by the birth of new stars, a spectacle few scientists ever witnessed up close. "Your species appreciates beauty," Guardian observed unexpectedly. "Yes," Trill replied, surprised by the comment. Did humanity not? Beauty was central to human existence. Art, music, literature. These were considered essential, not peripheral. Guardian manipulated the shuttle controls with practiced ease. Many species find this difficult to comprehend. They see only human weapons, human aggression, human ambition. "Yet you are taking me to a weapons cache," Trill pointed out. "Tools created from necessity, not desire." Guardian adjusted their course as they dove deeper into the gas clouds. Humanity would have preferred to explore, to create, to connect. The void forced a different path. As they approached the massive structure hidden within the stellar nursery, Trill saw details that had been invisible from the ship. The cache was not a single building but a complex of interconnected structures, each seemingly grown rather than built, curved surfaces flowing into one another with organic precision. "It's beautiful," she said. "Form following function," Guardian replied. "The structure exists partially in multiple dimensions. The aesthetics are a byproduct of mathematical efficiency." They approached what appeared to be a docking bay, a circular opening in the smooth surface of the structure. As they neared, the opening pulsed with blue light, the same hue as Guardian's eyes beneath the helmet. "Recognition protocols engage," Guardian announced. "Prepare yourself. The transition can be disorienting for non-humans." Before Trill could ask what that meant, the shuttle passed through the opening. For a brief, terrifying moment, Trill felt her consciousness fragment, her perceptions splitting, multiplying, experiencing multiple realities simultaneously. Then, as suddenly as it began, the sensation passed, leaving her disoriented but intact. What was that?" she gasped. "Dimensional barrier," Guardian explained, powering down the shuttle. "The cache exists partially outside normal space-time. It helps protect against void intrusion." They disembarked into a vast chamber that defied Trill's understanding of physics. Corridors seemed to extend in impossible directions, structures hung suspended without support, and light itself bent around objects in ways that suggested altered gravitational fields. "Stay close," Guardian instructed. "Your mind will attempt to impose familiar patterns on what you perceive. Resist this impulse. Accept what you see without trying to categorize it." They moved deeper into the complex, passing chambers filled with objects Trill could barely comprehend. Devices that seemed to shift their form as she looked at them, energy patterns that flowed like liquid while remaining immaterial, and screens displaying information in formats that her brain struggled to process. "This technology," she began, then stopped, unable to find adequate words. "Is beyond your current scientific paradigm," Guardian finished for her. "As it was beyond humanity's when the war began. We evolved our understanding by necessity." They reached a central chamber where a pedestal stood illuminated by a column of light. Guardian approached it and placed the disk they had recovered from the outpost onto its surface. The pedestal responded immediately, the entire chamber humming with energy. "Cache access granted," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Welcome, Guardian. Status report required." "The void stirs again," Guardian replied. "Outpost Sigma has been compromised. The return protocol has been initiated." A moment of silence followed, as if the very structure was processing this information. "Understood. Arsenal access granted. Ascension key activated." The pedestal began to transform, unfolding like a flower to reveal a complex device within. A crystalline lattice surrounding what appeared to be a miniature star, pulsing with contained energy. "What is that?" Trill asked, her scientific curiosity overwhelming her apprehension. "The seed of our salvation," Guardian replied, carefully removing the device, "and potentially our destruction if misused." "Warning," the omnipresent voice announced suddenly. "Void contamination detected. Perimeter breach imminent. Security protocols activating." Guardian's posture changed instantly, alert and ready. "We've been followed. The Void has found us more quickly than anticipated." The Sentinel turned to Trill. "We must return to your ship immediately." The entire structure shuddered, lights flickering momentarily. On the walls around them, displays activated, showing external views of the cache. The gas clouds of the stellar nursery were changing, darkening, as something moved through them. Not a ship or physical entity, but a spreading absence of light, of matter, of reality itself. "The Void," Trill whispered. "Move," Guardian commanded, already heading back toward the docking bay. "The cache defenses will activate, but they cannot hold indefinitely." They ran through the twisting corridors, the impossible architecture now shifting around them as the cache defense systems engage. Behind them, alerts sounded in that same calm, omnipresent voice. "Containment field activated. Phase barriers engage. Dimensional anchors stabilizing." As they reached the shuttle, Trill risked a glance back. What she saw would haunt her for the remainder of her life. The elegant corridors beginning to dissolve, not into destruction, but into nothingness, as if reality itself was being unwritten. "The cage. It's being consumed," she said as Guardian piloted the shuttle toward the exit. "As expected," Guardian replied, the synthetic voice betraying no emotion. "It was always a sacrifice play." The catches were designed to delay the Void while the primary weapon was activated. They burst from the docking bay into the swirling chaos of the stellar nursery, now darkening as the Void spread through the gas clouds. Behind them, the massive structure of Arsenal Cache Delta was half gone, the elegant architecture disappearing into an expanding sphere of absolute nothingness. Guardian pushed the shuttle to its limits, weaving through gas clouds that were rapidly being consumed by the advancing darkness. Trill watched in horror as newborn stars winked out of existence, their nascent light swallowed by the hungry Void. "Guardian to Luminous Seeker," the Sentinel transmitted. "Prepare for immediate departure. The cache is lost. The Void approaches." "Acknowledged," came Vexlar's tense reply. "Docking bay ready. We're detecting massive energy fluctuations throughout the stellar nursery." "What's happening?" "The birth of stars requires vast energy," Guardian explained. "The Void feeds on that energy. It grows stronger with each consumption." As they approached the Luminous Seeker, Trill saw the ship's engines already glowing with power, ready for immediate departure. The docking bay doors stood open, a rectangle of light in the mounting darkness. They landed hard, the shuttle skidding across the bay floor as Guardian prioritized speed over precision. The moment they touched down, the bay doors began closing and the ship lurched into motion. "Maximum acceleration," Guardian instructed as they rushed to the bridge. "The Void will pursue." On the bridge, Vexlar and the crew watched in horror as the view screen showed the stellar nursery collapsing in on itself, consumed by expanding darkness. Protostar after protostar winked out of existence, each feeding the growing hunger of the Void. "By the ancients," Merrill whispered. "An entire stellar nursery, gone." "Course heading," Plex asked, her tentacles working frantically across navigation controls. Guardian interfaced with the console. "These coordinates." "The next cache." "Another weapon?" Vexlar asked. "Components," Guardian corrected. "What we recovered is only part of what we need." The Sentinel held up the device from the cache, the crystalline lattice surrounding what looked like a captured star. "This is a dimensional anchor. It stabilizes reality against Void intrusion. But alone, It is insufficient. How many more components do we need? Kraz demanded. 2. A quantum initiator and a consciousness focus. Guardian's helmet turned toward Trill. As I explained to your scientist, humanity found a way to combat the void, but at great cost. Trill's crystalline form pulsed with realization. Your transformation. Humanity didn't just change physically. You changed your fundamental nature.